Hey everybody, welcome to Cage My IQ. As always, I am your host D-Big. Today we will be previewing PFL 9 2021, which is headlined by Brandon Loughnane going up against Movlid Khaybulaev in in the semifinals of the PFL tournament in their matchup. As always, this is Cage My IQ, the best place for MMA content. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch at the handles to the left. We are partnered with the Fighters First Network, of course. So all I ask you to do is go to the Fighters First Network on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit the like button on this video to help us out, and then leave us a comment on who you think is going to win on PFL Week 9. And as always, we have merch out now. All you got to do is go to fightersfirst.shop, scroll down to the Cage My IQ collection, and then click the box and check out the shirt that we have in 3 different styles, and even the hoodie that we have out as well. The fall's coming up in the next month or two, so you want to make sure you get that hoodie out so you're not cold during the fall and the winter, because those hoodies are very comfy, just like the shirts. And if you guys get any of our merch, let us know on Instagram or even Twitter. Give us a shout out, and then we'll shout you out on our next show. And so definitely don't hesitate to let us know what you think of our products and what you think we should add to the merch collection in the future. But let's get to the action on this PFL Week 9 playoffs. We got some good matchups on here for you. But the first matchup we have today is a really good light heavyweight matchup between Cezar Ferreira going up against Marthin Hamlet in the light heavyweight semifinals matchup in the PFL tournament. First, you got Cezar Ferreira, who is really good at taking guys down and then striking his big frame and body. Of course, he's always worked with the Brazilian background. Of course, he is a protege of Vitor Belfort. He has that explosive striking. He likes to use the jab, likes to use the overhand rights. He likes to knock guys out, but he's pretty good in the grappling side as well. It's very underwhelming for guys. He could take you down. He's had fights where he's gotten 3, 4 takedowns, and he just gets the nitty gritty ground and pound victories, or he can get you with the submissions. Then you got a guy like Marthin Hamlet, who is really good in the clinch. Like he could take you down, but his bread and butter is getting in close, throwing the strikes at you, the left and right hooks, preferably the right, then throwing in the right jab, and then just clinching up with you and getting everything in there up close, the knees and the elbows. And for this fight, I think the difference maker is going to be Hamlet getting the fight in the clinch, holding the control time, because the judges, of course, favor control time in the fights, especially in the PFL. He's going to just control him on the cage. He's going to push him along the cage and just rack up the volume that way, and keeping Cezar Ferreira was from being able to land any of his power strikes or getting Hamlet down to the ground. I think Hamlet's going to have pretty good takedown defense in this fight. This is they both have a 50-50 with their striking. I don't think either guy is any better in the striking, and I do think Ferrer is better with the takedowns than Hamlet is. But I think what Hamlet would do to eliminate that is to just get the fight in the clinch up close, where he's going to do all the damage that he can, and then limit what Ferrer can do with the takedowns or the ground and pound, because they're going to be staying up for a majority of the fight. So in this one, I got Marthin Hamlet defeating Cezar Ferrer by unanimous decision victory to move on to the finals of the light heavyweight tournament of PFL. In the second matchup on the light heavyweight side of the semifinals, we got Antonio Carlos Jr. going up against Emiliano Sordi. Antonio Carlos Jr. is a guy that likes to use his distance. He has a pretty decent grappling, and he likes to lead on his lead front foot in all of his fights. Whereas Emiliano Sordi is he's defending champion. He's won at PFL before. He's just an anomaly in this game because he doesn't have the best cardio. He usually is like just throwing haymakers coming at you, always moving forward. Only has put a decent strike and he has decent submission game, and he just finds ways to win out of nowhere. And this fight, I think it's going to be a little bit the same. If Antonio Carlos Jr. can get a takedown on Sordi, who Sordi is usually not that great against takedowns. This could be a long night for Emiliano Sordi because he needs to start defending those takedowns against all these guys that he's struggling against. But I think one thing that'll benefit Emiliano Sordi that has me lean towards his side of the fence is the fact that with Antonio Carlos Jr. always going forward and having his lead foot in front of him, Sordi I think is going to attack that with the leg kicks. He's going to hurt that foot, and he's just going to keep attacking him, keep pressuring forward. I think it's going to do damage to Junior where he's not going to be able to go for a lot of takedowns like you think he's going to do where he tries to go for submissions. And I think at the end of the day, Sordi's just going to rack up the volume, keep pressuring forward, damage that leg, and then at some point in the third round, he's going to get Junior down to the ground, whether it's by a nice shot that puts him down or he just trips him, and then he's going to lock in one of his few submissions that he likes to use. That's a very underrated part of Emiliano Sordi's game, but I think that's how he's going to get the victory. And at the end of the day, in this light heavyweight semifinal matchup, I got Emiliano Sordi defeating Antonio Carlos Jr. by third round submission via guillotine. And then now moving on to the finals of the light heavyweight portion of the PFL tournament. In the co-main event of the evening, we got one of my favorite fights on hand for PFL Week 9. It is a featherweight semifinal matchup between Chris Wade versus Bubba Jenkins. These are two guys that have similar backgrounds. They both are very well known in wrestling and grappling, and just and have decent striking. I think the striking is going to lean more towards Chris Wade because he does have that knockout power, whereas Bubba Jenkins, he's really more about just touching you up and then stunning you for a second, but his punches and strikes are light compared to his wrestling and his ground and pound style of his game. I think that's where he has the advantage over Chris Wade. Chris Wade is no slouch with his wrestling. He's able to win via that and then ground and pound. But I think in this matchup, Chris Wade's going to favor the grappling and the submission part of his move set. I think he's going to be welcome being put on his back. I think he's going to, instead of fighting the takedowns, I think he's going to welcome going down on his back and trying to lock in a triangle or arm bar or submission from the bottom, or try and switch positions with Jenkins because of the past losses that Bubba Jenkins has had. He's susceptible to submissions and matchups in many different ways. But I think the one thing that leans me towards Bubba Jenkins is the way he wrestles and the way he keeps top guard. Like it's hard to reverse him when he's on top. He knows how to keep that top game on his side. He throws strikes. He just holds his opponent down. He has that background. He showed it against Lance Palmer. We all know how good Lance Palmer is in the PFL, and he just had his way with them. And then Bubba Jenkins won in his second fight too. That was more of a better matchup for him, but it was more like a boring style because he just had his way, took his opponent down, and then held him there and threw ground and pound here and there. But he's not going to knock anybody out, whereas Chris Wade could knock somebody out and then he could submit somebody. But I think Chris Wade's going to struggle too much with the takedowns of Bubba Jenkins and his strength and then his top guard. And at the end of the day, in this matchup, I got Bubba Jenkins defeating Chris Wade by unanimous decision victory and moving on to the finals of the featherweight portion of the PFL week tournament. Moving on to the main event of PFL Week 9, we had the other featherweight matchup in the PFL tournament between Brandon Loughnane going up against Movlid Khaybulaev in one of my favorite matchups of this whole tournament. We got a boxing slash kickboxing guy in Brendan Loughnane going up against a sambo wrestler slash cringe artist and Movlid Khaybulaev. As everybody knows, Brendan Loughnane has that boxing background where he can throw the jab, throw the overhand shots, and then he mixes it up with his vicious leg kicks that he's been able to damage his opponents. He pieced up Tyler Diamond with those leg kicks. He even pieced up his Moraes with them before getting the knockout. He should have had a knockout in the second matchup, but Diamond is just tough as nails, and he was able to withstand everything and make it to decision. But Brendan Loughnane also has a really good takedown defense. He showed that against Tyler Diamond, and then he just keeps on coming at you. He's either going to come forward against you and then throw the strikes, or he's going to come and move backwards and throw the leg kicks and then throw the right overhand to keep you from attacking him. Whereas you got a guy like Movlid Khaybulaev, he's out of that Eagle training camp where he's being trained. His head coach is, of course, Habib Nurmagomedov is Habib, who is basically lights out as a head coach, and all of his fighters just keep winning. And known Habib Nurmagomedov is teaching him what to do. That always gives him like a heads up on the competition. I feel like he's going to use that sambo background where he just pressures forward on his opponent and then let them make a mistake moving backwards, and he just uses the momentum against them to get his takedowns. And I think a part of his game that people underestimate is the leg kicks from Movlid. He was able to use a little bit of them in his last matchup that against Lance Palmer that helped him out in that fight. And then he was able to throw a couple right-handed shots that looked really good. But that the bread and butter of him is going to be the wrestling. I think he's the type of guy that can get Brandon Loughnane down, and when he gets you down, he keeps you down. He holds position. He knows how to transition into side guard or transition from side guard into top guard, and then he just ground and pounds you, throws elbows, throws strikes at you, and just does whatever he needs to do to keep you on the ground, because the longer the fight's on the ground, the more it favors Movlid Khaybulaev. But the fight's standing and stands for a majority of the fight, that would benefit Brandon Loughnane because of his boxing and his movement, because he's a faster fighter, better striker, better kicker, and has a little bit better of a gas tank. Movlid has a good gas tank when it comes to wrestling, but stand up, we have no idea how he's going to do if he goes up against a guy that can keep him from getting the takedowns. But at the end of the day, I have Movlid Khaybulaev defeating Brendan Loughnane by unanimous decision victory. I think he's going to be able to get Loughnane on the ground, control the fight there for majority of the fight, use the ground and pound to rack up the striking volume. He's going to transition. There's going to be a couple times that he's going to try for a submission on Brendan, but he's not going to get it. And then I do think Brendan's going to be able to get up and throw some heavy strikes on Movlid that are going to connect and maybe hurt him. But at the end of the day, I think the control time and the time on the ground is going to be too much for Brendan Loughnane to come back from behind. And I got Movlid Khaybulaev defeating Brandon Loughnane by unanimous decision victory and moving to the finals of the featherweight portion of the PFL tournament with this victory in the main event of PFL Week 9. That'll wrap things up for this Cage My IQ preview of PFL Week 9, headlined by Brendan Loughnane going up against Movlid Khaybulaev. Once again, and this was Cage My IQ. Let me give a shout out to our sponsors. 99 jersey. Use promo code SportsBoxShow20 at checkout to receive 20% off your next purchase. Of course, they got all these jerseys out there that love. So all you gotta do is go there, pick the jersey that you like, put promo code SportsBoxShow20 in, and watch as you see 20% off your next purchase. Then you got Oddsjam. Go to the link in the bio, click the link, sign up, and watch as you never miss a bet again. And lastly, we got High Tide Herbal. All you gotta do is go to www.hightideherbal.com, put in promo code CageMyIQ10 at checkout to receive 10% off your next purchase. High Tide Herbal is a company owned by coaches and athletes that specialize in speedy recovery. All the products have CBD in it, and the goal with High Tide Herbal is to help athletes recover from injuries faster than usual. So once again, High Tide Herbal, use promo code CageMyIQ10 at checkout. That'll wrap things up for this episode of Cage by IQ. Tune in later this week for the recap of PFL 9, which will be headlined by Brendan Loughnane versus Movlid Khaybulaev. And thank you guys for tuning in. As always, this is the best place for MMA content. Subscribe to the First Network on YouTube. Don't forget to hit the like button on this video. Give us a comment of who you think's going to win on PFL 9. And we will talk to you guys later. See you guys next time.